Hey, good morning. Welcome to Daily Revelations. Thanks for joining me again today. We're finishing up Genesis today. Took a leap ahead. Kind of skipped over the story of Joseph. It's a story that many of us know if you've read the Bible before or even grew up in church. It's one of those stories. So in my biblical theology class, I kind of just skipped over that and went on to the last two chapters as we're wrapping it up for our week's lesson. And I have my class tomorrow morning. So diving into Genesis 49 and 50, what I wanted to focus on today was Genesis 49, though, because there's something there that kind of took me back a little bit when I was reading it. I've never read it from this perspective before, that Jacob, before he died, or Israel, as God renamed him, blessed his sons. But if you read through it, it's not much of what we would call a blessing. In our culture, we call a blessing something that's good and spoken over someone that is going to bring about wonderful things. That's what we consider a blessing. But Jacob doesn't speak many good things for many of his sons. He does for some. But if you go back to the words in verse 1, it actually says, I'm going to tell you the things which shall befall you in the last days. Not till the end do they say that they are a blessing. But this word befall, if you go back to the Hebrew, it means that which is either going to happen to you by accident or something that's going to enter your life through a hostile means. So what he was doing was not, in essence, blessing them with what he was saying. He was blessing them by telling them, this is something's going to happen. Be prepared. I want you to understand how God is working out something different in your life. And that you need to be prepared for this. Sometimes they were based on things that his sons had done that were results of their good or bad choices. And we live with those as well. Some of them yet pertained to God's calling for their life or their certain bent, their gifts. But it was all based on truth and what God had spoken to Jacob to speak over his sons. And then at the very end, after all of these blessings are said, verse 28 says this, and this is it, that their father spoke unto them and blessed them. Everyone according to his blessing, he blessed them. Those words blessing have a dual meaning of blessing or curse. It doesn't mean just the good. It could also mean something that's not so good. But it was a benediction. His last words, the things that he felt were most important to pass along, because right after that he dies. These are the things that he wanted his sons to know, to be prepared for in their future. And that made me think about just what is spoken over me. What's spoken over you? What do we take away from what's spoken over us? And do we accept the truth of what our past actions have taken us through, the past actions of others? Do we incorporate our calling into that as well as what God speaks over us? But even more important, do we allow God's truths about what he says about us to overshadow all of that? And can we incorporate all of that into a place where we come to a better understanding of the blessings of God aren't always the good things. And what he speaks over us is something even better. He speaks over us our part of his story, our part in the defeat of the enemy at the end. Our stories will convince others that God is bigger than our circumstances. Our stories will be used to defeat Satan in the final days. Revelation tells us that. But do we believe it? Do we act as victors even though we're oppressed in this world? And do we uphold each other, or do we define one another by what they struggle with instead of what God says they are, who they are? I wrote in my notes, the cross has redeemed everything of this world. There's hope beyond here. And what God speaks over us, more important than anything else in this world, is that we are loved, we are redeemed, we are His. And that it's perfect. He has completed it already. And we need to move forward no matter what in that victory as children of His kingdom, because that's what we've been called to do. And that weight of sin one day will be off of us. Those things spoken over us in this world will not be. And the only thing that will be left will be what He's spoken over us and how He's defined us as His children, as perfect, as redeemed, and within His presence 24/7. So remember that. If today has you down, you have a future and a hope that is beyond this world. And that is what defines you. Not what this world says you are, not what sometimes we believe and cycle through our minds about who we are. In the end, we don't have the final say. Our Father does. Just like Jacob spoke over his sons, God is speaking over us. And He has given the definitive answer of who we are. We are loved. And that's what matters most. Have an awesome day, everybody. And I will see you again tomorrow on Daily Revelations.